All right, we're back in the sheet metal lab now. Want to emphasize this video is not so much of a training video, but a way of seeing how well YouTube videos would work as far as this class goes. I have ordered a webcam type of setup so I don't have to stand here in front of this laptop, but it has not come in yet. They're being back ordered. So what I'm going to start is I'm going to be stopping, starting, moving things around. Hopefully I won't scare you too much. We are going to use the following tools today. This is the former everybody's been used to. Straight pair of snips. Everybody should be used to all these tools. Right, left, a bender, a square. I didn't bring a scribe, but I'm going to use a marking pen and a tape measure. So again, we're over here trying to set up a reducer. And one of the things that I found over here, which is probably pretty nice, is kind of like a pre-made reducer, or this is the other part of the reducer. So I'm going to start with this one and see if we can make it up fairly nice. And then we may or may not, depend upon time, try to make something else. So we start by measuring the reducer at the top, and it is 4 inches. The bottom should drop down to 1 inch or nothing. So if I was making a 12 by 8, which this happens to be 8, which is nice, and I had 4 inches at the top to start with, I would make a piece of sheet metal that was 8 inches by 8 inches by 8 inches. And I believe if we do that, we will end up with the proper thing, but let's verify that. The first thing I'm going to do is move the screen around again to the shear. See if I can find a piece of scrap metal that size. This looks pretty good. Piece of scrap metal. And again, we want it 8 by 8 by 8. And I don't know whether the length would make that much difference. But let's see what the length of this one is. 12 inches, that's good. So we're going to 12 by 8 by 8. So the first thing I want to do is, excuse me, is make sure I got a good square edge to start with. And mark it at 12 inches. And mark the other end at 12 inches. So I'm going to cut off my height. Going to our famous shear now. Again, if I get the camera, we might not have to do all this. We'll see. I'll go the other way. It's a little easier to cut off, I think. 12. Do that square. All right. So I've got a 12-inch piece of metal now. And I said it's going to be 8 by 8 by 8. 8 and 8 is 16, and an additional 8 would be 24. That sounds right anyway. Let's go ahead and mark the 8s and then we'll see. 8. 8 and 8 is 16. And another 8 is 24. So I'm going to cut it off at the 24, and those are my bend marks. I'm not exactly, you might want to look at a YouTube video for this to verify that this is the way you make it up. They sell these adapters. You can get them online. I'll see if I can find you a YouTube video for that. And we're going to cut it on that one. That's 24. Again, I mark it both sides so I get a cut. Stick it in the shear. And that's my 24. Not sure how square it's working out to be though. 8 by 8 by 8 by 24. So I'm just going to make this bend out and just see if it works out for what we want. If not, we got another piece of scrap metal in the lab, which should not be an issue at all. I'm moving the camera around to the shear, I hope, or the bender, pardon me. I'll stick my metal in. That end's already locked in place. I got a good square mark here. Bring that up. And then this other end. Like that. And we'll see what the final results here show up. Over here. That goes in there like that. And like this. I'm not locking it in place. So in theory, if you can see this thing, at this end here, bring it down a little bit so you see it. We have a 12-inch duct, and at this end we have an 8-inch duct. So I did something wrong there, didn't I? I kept using 8 instead of 10. So this would be a reducer for a 12 by 8 to a 8 by 8. It didn't turn out too bad. So buying that reducer is not too bad of an idea. I think I'll go ahead and make another one correctly. My dimensions will save this here for display. I'm going to put this on pause while I find another piece of scrap sheet metal. Why ain't the pause button working? All right, I'm back. Again, I don't have the camera set up right. I'll be sure glad when that camera comes in. I've got a full-size sheet here now, and I'm going to try to cut some 12-inch pieces so I can keep running the videos as we go along. I'm going to cut a first one and use it as a pattern, hopefully. I know you can't see what I'm doing, which may not be a bad thing either. We'll see. What's the adage? Don't do as I do as I say, something like that. Might be a good place for this. I want to put this big sheet in here, which would be a lot easier to work with had I had one of you students in here to help me. But I didn't. Hopefully that's square, even though I kind of doubt it the way it's marked. Let's see, that's coming down there. It's as square as I'm going to get it, I guess. That's not too bad. All right, there's one piece. Again, I'm just going to use this piece as a template, hopefully, and mark some more. That up against there like that. And I'm just going to truss this side here. See what happens. So there's one piece, I hope. Back this back up. Put it back in again. And that should be a 12-inch piece. There's another 12-inch piece. Do one more here. So we've got it. Again, when you're dealing with this big of a piece of sheet metal, it's always nice if you got somebody else to help you. Our table to work with. I've been trying to get them to set up a table in here. I have not succeeded so far. That's okay. And if I cut my fingers off, then they'll have a good example. And down we go. All right, that should be enough pieces to make scrap. Move this back to the workbench. Now I have 3 scrap pieces, templates, whatever you want to call it. And now, for those of you that watched the first part of this, we're trying to make a 12 by 8 by 12 down to a 10 by 8 by 12. So you realize I cut that other one incorrectly. This one, let's see, if not cut it, but bend it. I'm going to go 10 by 8, which would be 18, by 10 again would be 28. And I need to cut it off on the 28 part. Let's go ahead and use this to make sure I get it square. Right there, I hope. All right, so I'm going to cut that to 28. Now I'm going to mark it out for my bends. See how much time I'm running here. And now we're going to go 10, 8, and whatever's left there should be correctly. Take my little square so I end up with a relatively square piece here. Getting square edges on these things is a little tough because the metal don't stay up the way it should. Might be better off using a marking pen. And what you should always do, which I never do, is double check your measurements. So my first bend would be 10. My bend from the other side would be 10, and it should be 8 in between the two. So let's try that one. Keep your caps on your marking pens. Put it in the bender. And then the 90 on that one. Put a piece in the bender here. Try to get, this is not machine shop work, so millimeters is not super critical. And now I'm going to grab another one of those pre-made up reducers. You can buy these things online. I'm sure they're cheaper than Blue Blazes. And take my piece here and put it in the reducer. It's overstretched, so you've got something to work with on the ends for S's and drives. I'm going to bend this a little bit better. It's not very square. Square it up a little bit. Could have put it in the bender too and done that, but anyway. Oh, cut myself. Remember, when you put your metal in, you put it in on an angle, never straight, so it goes down properly. All right, now I've got another reducer. I'll turn the camera so you can actually see what I'm doing here. Again, this is designed not so much as a training video, but as a practice video to see if we can, what would happen if we did some of this online. Now on this end, I got 14. And on this end, I've got 10. So now we've got a reducer that is 14 by 10 instead of 12 by 10. And you know why? Because I didn't subtract the 4 inches that I had there. So now we have 2 reducers that are incorrect. This is practice making sheet metal. I think I'll try one more just because I can. I didn't subtract the 14 from that, which I should have, or the 4 inches, pardon me. So now in order to make a 12, we would have an 8. Well, that was the 8 by 8 that I had before, and that didn't work out. Yes, it did. It was 12. It was 12 by 8. All right, for those of you that are watching this video, which I hope some of you get to see it, I'm going to leave it at that point for today. Again, I want to see what kind of instructions we're going to get. I'm going to turn around to these 2 adapters and see if you can tell me or do some research what dimensions I would have had to cut in order to get the 12 by 8 by 12 down to a 10 by 8 by 10. So I'm going to turn around and show the adapters and the measurements. Is it showing up good enough? All right, the top is 12 inches. The bottom is 8 inches. This adapter, now I cut this one 8 by 8 by 8. This adapter is 14 by 10. So they're always going down to 10 with this dimension. If I would have cut this thing 2 inches shorter, instead of 10 to 8, that would have ended up with that one. So, like I say, these are the 2 practice adapters I've made today. We'll leave them here. We will see how well this video turns out. And I'll try to do some research too as far as why we ended up with this type of an arrangement. And for that, we're going to call it a session for today.